All right, so we should be live right now. But kind of before we get this thing underway, can you maybe give yourself, for some people that may not know who you are, like a brief introduction about what you do, etc.
Yeah, I'm Ted Emrich. I'm a play-by-play announcer with ESPN for college and high school basketball, and for Westwood One Radio for college football, college basketball, major championship golf, including the Masters. And yeah, it's a fun ride. It was great to see you at Geico Nationals in Fort Myers and meet you just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that was definitely a pleasure for sure. So I really like sometimes I'll just be on my phone I still cannot believe I was there. I'm still like in complete shock with that whole experience. But I want to ask my first thing, kind of like a really basic question, but what I just find so cool about it is everybody has a different story. Like, what just kind of got you started? Maybe what age were you when you realized like you want to be a sports broadcaster?
It was very young. I just thought it was the coolest job in the world, right? You're you're watching these games and you're watching it as a fan, right? Excuse me, growing up in Dallas, you're seeing the Cowboys or whatever, and you see Pat Summerall and John Madden doing the game, and eventually, of course, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on Fox, or pick your network, right? The A team, so to speak. And it just seemed like the most amazing job in the world, where not only do you have the best seat in the house, you're getting paid to talk about the game in front of you and to feel that energy in person week after week. And no matter the sport, from football to basketball, it doesn't matter. I just thought, man, that just I would love to get into that. How do you get into that? And I will say, Isaac, I was very fortunate that I had a father who was in the business. Now, he didn't do play-by-play, but he was in radio here in the Dallas area. Roger Emrich, and in fact was a Texas Radio Hall of Famer. So, and he did sports. So growing up, just tagging along with him to different events, Cowboys, Mavericks, Rangers, whatever it was, it allowed me to get exposed to it at a very early age. But I knew I didn't want to be a reporter or anchor. Nothing against that. That's what my dad did on radio. I wanted to call games. I wanted to document the moment live. And that's what we get the chance to do week in and week out, wherever it is, whether it's on TV or radio.
Yeah, and someone I was gonna ask like a question more relating to what you said, but it just popped into my head. Like, I feel like if you're being I guess anything involved with sports broadcasting, you can't just know the information. Like, you kind of got to have a sort of you got to know how to present it. You got to be good on the camera, or you got to have, I guess, more energy in your voice and everything. So, as you say, there's kind of more to what you do than just all the information about everything. Like, you got to kind of be an entertainer as well.
Yeah, you got to have a personality. You got to have fun. Sports are fun. We can't be showing up and acting like a stuffed shirt or overly reverential, or like the viewer at home. Like, let's have some fun. This is. And listen, are there moments in the broadcast, serious elements of a player's story or a coach's story? Yes, you handle that with care, but overall, let's have some fun. Like, and I do kind of cringe at times. I hear the comparison. Well, sports is the toy department of life. I've always kind of balked at that just a little bit because I feel like there's a little bit more importance that we should place on it. I do think that, especially over the last year, as we have been through so much collectively, I do feel like sports has played just a partial role in healing, at the very least in entertainment, and yes, perhaps an escape. But it's let's not be serious the whole time. Let's have good conversation. Yes, let's capture the moment. Let's get excited, when somebody throws it down, when somebody hits a big shot, right? A 75-yard touchdown pass. Let's get hyped, but let's have some fun as well. And that's critical for any play-by-play announcer working with an analyst. Got to be conversational, got to be personable, and let's ultimately bring the energy and let's have some fun.
And that's funny you say, kind of like get hyped when something happens, but I feel like something that almost makes me cringe. Like if I'm listening to two kids like doing sports, there's some big play, and all I hear is just like too much screaming. Like I feel like you
Yeah.
got to find that. Like of course that Hornets play-by-play guy, I guess, is going kind of viral right now. But it's like, when something happens and just all you hear is like just the screaming in the microphone, everything, that stuff kind of gets a little crazy too. So how do you kind of, I guess, balance out, like, maybe your first couple years like on the job and something crazy, like you never really seen it before, first time calling like a crazy big play, like how do you almost show that you're very excited without being too excited that it's like, overdoing it?
Yeah, that's a great point, Isaac. You're right. It can't be going to, let's use a Spinal Tap reference here. And I don't even know if you're old enough to have seen Spinal Tap. You probably have no idea what I'm talking about
I
right
have
now.
no idea.
That's what I thought, but that's okay. Go find it. Go search
Right.
the YouTube clip after Spinal Tap going to 11. Okay.
Right.
This one goes to 11. You can't go to 11 every single play. Then everything means nothing. It doesn't matter. You have to be able to modulate your energy a little bit, and you learn that it takes time. Like, yes, when you're in college and you make your mistakes, early when not nearly as many people are listening, when the people who are decision makers at the highest level aren't listening. I mean, again, you hope not. At least you're not sending that tape around to ESPN when you're in college. You don't have the delusions of grandeur at that age. Some perhaps it's a little bit different, but yes, you lose your voice early, and then you learn. Okay, I can't do that. How do I find your range? Right, your voice is an instrument. How do you find that perfect note, right, for the dunk in the first quarter versus the alley-oop slam that happens to be the go-ahead basket in the fourth quarter, right? They're different levels, and the more you do it, and again, every rep is valuable, whether you're doing high school basketball on a local radio station or doing high school basketball on ESPN, like I was doing a few weeks ago, or the Big 12 basketball on ESPN, like I did this season. You figure it out and you mature. Every game you learn something new, hopefully, and you can carry that with you to the next one. But you're right. You can't be just screaming your head off at every big play, because then you just got to mute the TV
Yeah,
after a while. That's too much.
definitely. And you did mention kind of how your dad, I guess, has been some maybe a little helpful for your career. However, like I know the business, like this is almost the reason why I don't know if I ever told you, but like I don't want to be unless the opportunity comes to me, like I'm not chasing after a sports broadcasting opportunity kind of thing. I just enjoy networking and talking to people to do something in sports, not in terms of just specifically sports broadcasting, because I learned, like, when I would go to this broadcasting camp for a week, there's like a lot of like dirty work you got to put in. Like you got to put in a lot of time at this random news station in Kentucky that no one's ever heard of, and like do like I feel like there's a lot of dirty stuff you kind of got to do in the, or not a lot of small stuff you got to do, not dirty. So
Yeah,
talk about some of those like stepping stone experiences that you had to kind of do to get to where you are today.
You're right, Isaac. It's a lot of hard work. And the deal is, everyone who goes down this road, they all have their own path. You have no idea when or if you'll get that call that you remember forever from an ESPN or a Fox, or take your pick. I can tell you, my first professional job out of college was on a tiny station in McKinney, Texas, about 45 minutes north of Dallas. And I was doing a weekly high school football game and basketball games in the spring, and baseball and softball. And it was about $150 a game. And I set up all the equipment. I'm the play-by-play announcer and the engineer. And it's first of all, you better develop work ethic, at a very early age if you're doing that. And you also develop a sense of humility as well. It's so valuable. That experience is so valuable, and we all have it because we all start somewhere. Even before that, just doing college radio, like I did at North Texas,
Yep.
which has a phenomenal broadcast program. You are on those road trips to wherever North Texas is playing, or a local high school team is in the playoffs, and you blow a tire on the way there, and you're scrambling because you know what? The only thing that matters, and it's the lesson that you learn very early on, just get it on the air. Just get on the air no matter what. And that's what we did. That serves you well moving forward when now you're a part of a team. That's the deal. You learn that sense of teamwork early, and soon you're not setting up the equipment anymore, but you have an appreciation for what everyone does. And like we say in TV, the term that is so often used for announcers, well, they're the talent, right? I shake my head at that. No, again, that's the term.
Yeah,
but
I've been called out before too, because of my school. Like,
I cringe a little bit.
It's the term, I can't like.
I don't embrace that. Like, the talent is everyone who makes this broadcast, this telecast possible. Everyone in the truck, producer, director, assist, AD, graphics, audio, engineers, operations, so on and so forth. Everybody plays their role. Everyone fulfills it. And as a result, you have that product at home as a viewer. It doesn't happen if everyone doesn't do their jobs. And as announcers, we are a small part of it. And yes, we're the front-facing element of it. Yeah, we're on camera and all of that. But we have to do our job. How can we enhance what everyone else has put on the screen? Right, the producer who has outlined things, the director who is giving you those shots, the photographers, the cameramen who have put it there on the screen. Like, and now our job is just not to screw it up, and let's enhance it. Let's bring these players and coaches to life. Let's tell their stories. Let's be the conduit for the energy that's on the court, that's on the field, and put the viewer there in that stadium, in that arena, so that they can feel it, so that they can get those goosebumps. That's our challenge week in and week out. And that's what makes it so much fun to me.
Yeah, it's crazy. You're kind of mentioning the whole, kind of about the whole team and everything. It's almost like, I don't know, it's gonna make me look bad. That's almost the whole reason why I kind of stopped. Like, I dropped out of my school's TV production program, because it was like, I just do not enjoy, like, I just wasn't a fan of like, I hated being on the computer editing all day. Like, I just didn't really understand all this technology stuff. Like, I learned it was not for me, but like, now I have so much, like, I had no idea before, like, what it kind of took to do something. Like, I just thought it was, easy. I never realized there's all this stuff. There's like a cart outside of the, I guess, like, right outside the booth. And then, we're carrying all this heavy stuff and having to coil up these wires. And like, I'll be watching an NBA game or something like that, and I'll see, the score will change, and I'm like, they have to put in so much effort just to change the score. Or when they put on those quick facts or whatever, like, oh, he's going this, but like, they have to somehow get those stats, to have someone type it up, to like, it's just insane. Like, just all the stuff that kind of goes into it that people really don't realize. But you mentioned earlier about kind of that big call up and everything. I don't know if you're one of those people where you're like, oh, I still haven't had my big break yet, or, I hope I haven't. But I guess at least, like, what was that kind of big moment for you where you got that, I guess, big promotion or that big call up, and how did it happen?
Yeah. So this is 2015, 6 years ago. I was doing mainly radio at the time. I was working at the ESPN radio affiliate here in Dallas on a part-time basis, but I was doing Morning Drive, the Sports Center updates, and hosting on the side weekends and nights, and play-by-play outside of that. Had a schedule that was conducive to doing play-by-play. Hey, winter games, they're at nights, they're they're on the weekend. So a lot of, like I said, high school football and whatnot. And I have the opportunity to fill in on the Texas Legends telecast. This is the G League affiliate of the Mavericks. And I had not done TV. That's always been a goal of mine, but all the opportunities for me were in radio. So that's the road I'm traveling. I thought the games went pretty well. I got a chance to do 2 games in 1 week. And I just thought on a whim, why not put a reel together, right? Splicing together clips and finding a good stretch, a good segment. And so, it's about a 10, 12-minute YouTube video. Again, the demo reel that we all hear about, that everyone puts together, no matter who you are in the industry, anchor, reporter, play-by-play, whatever. So I put something together and I send it to ESPN. I just thought, why not? What's the worst that can happen? Like, first, they don't respond. Well, it's not a big deal. That's what I'm expecting, honestly, And I send it in May of 2015. Don't hear anything other than this boilerplate email, thank you for your submission. But it said, we get thousands of these, which I know they do. And sure enough, 3 months later, in August, I get a phone call from a coordinating producer for college basketball at ESPN. And he introduces himself and he says, I bet you didn't expect to hear from me. I say, that's an understatement. What can I do for you? And he says, I really liked your tape. We'd like to hire you. How would you like to do games for us? And again, that is the moment you dream of. That floors you. And listen, that's where it begins. It doesn't end there. Now you have to prove yourself. And it's been a long road since then. It was very clear to me then, and certainly now, I still needed seasoning. Again, I had not done TV. I'm glad that I at least showed something, and I'm thankful for that coordinating producer. His name is Chris Farrell, no longer with ESPN, but funny enough, still work with him plenty. And even at Geico Nationals, he runs point on the production company that ran that event for ESPN. And so I still see him quite a bit. But I am just so thankful that he did see something in me at that point. And I feel like, and this is a continuous process, Isaac. It's continuous for all of us, no matter what stage you are in your career. I've matured, have grown up, have learned so much. I'm trying to add something every year, and you want to get to the end of your respective seasons. Like, I added this to my game, or I took the next step in this aspect this year. And I feel like I've been doing that, where you gain confidence, you grow more comfortable, like I said, from a game to game basis and a year to year basis. It's, it's funny, right? It's the Joel Embiid, it's the Sixers, it's a process. And I know that's trite, but it is absolutely true.
Yeah, I mean, I really couldn't agree. It is really interesting because you think, like, I remember when I just started, I thought, okay, like, I'm good at doing these interviews and talking to people, and then, like, I guess not really unconsciously, like, I made changes like after watching other stuff, but it's like from, I guess, I've been doing this for almost a year now, like in a couple of months or in like a month. Like, it is crazy to see from how different I am in the first one to where I am now. Like, I used to have like a whole Google Doc of like 20 questions, and I would just go, I throw in a lot of follow-ups, but I would have, just question by question, go in that order. And now, like, I got nothing. I just kind of go off the top of my head and whatever you say, and maybe I'll like jot a few things down if I want to I guess come up with it. But it is really crazy how that process works.
And that's so important, again, just to talk interviewing for a second. And we're all trying to get better in that area, because that is a lost art and a skill. It truly is. You're right. You don't want just the full list of questions and the
Yep.
bullet points. And okay, after this question, I'm going to ask this question. Like, listen to what your subject, again, who you're interviewing, what are they saying?
Mhm.
Pick up on something, and like you said, the follow-up is so important. Ask the open-ended questions. Ask the simple, concise questions. That's ESPN has run the seminar for years with the guru John Sawatsky, and I encourage you to Google this, the Sawatsky method. It just even just the one page, the list of tips, right? And before you even dive deep, can help you so much as an interview. It can help all of us.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny. I actually so in my head when I was saying that, I guess that statement, because what I'm trying to work on is make these things like more conversational as possible. The one tough part is sometimes you're talking to someone where they're not like that. Like they just kind of want to just go question after question. So usually I'll say something. I'll just say like a statement, not even a question, and it'll like awkward silence, like 5 seconds, and I'm like, oh, all right, let me just bring it out. That's like I tried that out with you. I said like, what I said, and I'm like, I was about to go ask this question. I'm like, let me see if he says anything. So I kind of achieved a little goal, because that's like that's what I'm working on right now. Is I'm just trying to make this thing just more of a conversation than an interview. However, there is stuff that I do. I guess some stuff that I do want to know. I feel like something that I've heard a lot, just about getting jobs in sports, or I guess really anything, like those emails and knowing when to follow up with people and the messages. That's kind of something I've been learning a lot recently. Like, how long is, like, I guess how long should an email be? Like, is this too long? Is this too short? Like, what should you put? Or even like in the demo reel too. So I guess we could kind of take it like step by step in a way. Like, what did you include in that demo reel? Like, what made the clip good? You just include like all the biggest plays that you did, or was it like just like like what makes a good demo reel?
Isn't that a brilliant question? Because you ask 10 different people who can hire announcers, can hire talent, so to speak, and you might very well get 10 different answers. It is so subjective. If it'd be a lot easier if, okay, let me check this box and this box. And I really relied on people that I trust, friends of mine, and we all have to do this. We all need not just to network with those who can, give you gigs, give you jobs, right? You need to be able to network with people who hopefully become your friends and are also in the business. And okay, wait, what was your experience? What did they respond to? What did you send? What do you suggest? And that I credit Mike Cousins so much. He has become, one of my best friends. He is also a play-by-play announcer with ESPN, has been doing it longer, does football, basketball, baseball, softball, handles the NCAA wrestling championships as well. And just a brilliant announcer. Love his work. And I asked him back then, it just recently got in touch with him through a mutual friend of ours. And the way he laid it out was, well, they want to see you on camera. So ideally something from an open, right? The beginning of the broadcast, like you were talking about, when you're on camera and setting up your analyst about a storyline or a player in the game that you're about to do. So, cut something from that, and it doesn't even have to include the analyst's response. It's just you. It's about you, and that's the funny thing, right? You don't want to make it all about you, but it is about you, and you want to highlight your skill set. Next, like you mentioned, highlights, and no, it doesn't have to be, just explosions and fireworks and one after another, right? The tomahawk dunk followed by the 80-yard run, or whatever in football, or the grand slam in baseball. But 2, 3, 4, 5 highlights, probably less than 5, 3 to 4 highlights that you feel good about. And again, they don't have to be all game-winning shots or game-winning plays, but again, maybe showing that range, maybe something, a huge play, right? But a good solid highlight where your voice is in control. You still have the energy, but you're not going over the top. Hopefully you're not going over the top for any of these highlights, right? Where you're losing your voice and it's cracking and all of that. And then, maybe some different elements where, there are moments of conversation with your analyst. Try to highlight maybe a fun moment or something. Again, we're talking about just little snippets here, 15, 30 seconds, maybe a back and forth that works, that can show a producer or somebody, again, who has that hiring ability, that you can think on your feet, that you can engage the analyst. And on the back end, you want hopefully an uninterrupted segment, one that you feel really good about, a solid 4, 5, 6 minute stretch, in whatever sport, but it has everything, right? You are hopefully checking all the boxes. You're smooth. You have that voice quality. It's resonant. You're working well with your analyst. You're on top of the play, whatever the sport might be. You're nailing those calls, conversation, personality, and that's what's tough, right? Hopefully it registers, it resonates with the person who's watching. And that's why I sent it around to a few people at first before I sent it to ESPN. Hey, just what do you think? Like, is this even worth sending? And the response I got, like, hey, this is pretty good. Why not? Why not send it? Again, it's not like I was some amazing, burgeoning talent at the time. It hadn't done TV, but there was something there. And I'm thankful for that. Again, you have to have people in your corner, whether it's your peers, who, again, hopefully they're your friends. We know how competitive the business is, but we're not going to survive unless we lean on each other at times. And hopefully you have that network of people, your board of advisors, so to speak, right? The board of trustees you go to for advice, mentoring. Like, what do you think of this? What if I try that? That's going to help you so much as you try to navigate what can be a crazy world.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. I mean, there's actually one person where I start asking him, like, at one point I started getting maybe too many creative ideas, but like it's been very, I guess you could say, like, I would not be where I am right now if I didn't have these, a few conversations with, so-and-so people that are kind of in the industry that have, done it for a few years. I kind of know what they're talking about, because it is definitely very essential. But let's kind of go back to the whole, I guess, demo reel thing. So now I want to talk about the email. Like, what was, I didn't need to say the exact words, but like, was it, a long paragraph? Did you just put like, just name, phone, like very, very bullet points, or what? How was the email written?
Isaac, you want to make sure that it is succinct. You want it to be concise. Listen, they are so busy.
Yep.
The people that you're sending this to, whether it is a coordinating producer, whether it's somebody in a talent office at a network that handles the hiring and the development of on-air personalities, they don't want your life story. Maybe there's a time where they are interested in that, but this is not the time to lay that out. And when I was a little boy and I was watching the 1998 Big 12 championship, and no, that's not it. Like, hey, I'll tell you about that later. I remember where I was when Brent Musburger was, calling or whatever, right? No, it is just a brief introduction, and you want to frame it the right way as well. I found that it's not like in that email, and again, we're talking just a few sentences. It's a little more than what you said. Name and phone number, right? Bullet point. Hey, here I am. Please hire me. It's not, and that's the key. Like, never in there was it. I'm really interested in doing games for ESPN. Of course you are. I think everyone understands that. You wouldn't be sending this email if you weren't. I framed it as I would love any feedback you have to offer. Just just reaching out. I would, would love to hear your thoughts. I wanted to share with you my demo reel. Would love to hear your thoughts if you have the time. That's what it was. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate your consideration. Very simple, to the point, straightforward, and like you go from there. You hope that you catch them on a good day, and that's the thing. Like I said, whether it's a coordinating producer, whether it's somebody in the talent office, they're getting these emails nonstop. And I heard later in the case of Chris Farrell, the coordinating producer for college basketball at the time at ESPN, he says that they would gather all of these emails over time, and they would carve out 1 week in the summer where it was just a little bit slower, right before they were really gearing up for college basketball season. They would take a week, sit down in the office. All right, let's plow through them. Everyone around the conference table, you got the monitor over here. All right, let's fire this one up. And he told me later, it's like the Gong Show. And again, that's another reference that you will not get. And I barely get it based on my age. A show from years and years ago. Let's put it this way. Think of America's Got Talent or any of those, right? Where you have the buzzers, right? And the X's, right? Play them off the stage. That's just another version of that from years before. And he said, some people, you put on that YouTube link or whatever it is, and you last 5 seconds. Next, right? I don't like, 30 seconds, whatever. And I'm grateful. He told me, we watched your entire tape. Like I said, it was about 10 minutes, 12 minutes. Like, you don't want it to be more than that. You don't want to send 30 minutes worth of material. That's ridiculous. And honestly, if you're sending it to a talent office somewhere, ESPN, Fox, wherever, you want it to be like 5 minutes. It needs to be short. And if they want any more, like that full segment that I mentioned on the back end, then, they might ask for it later. Hey, you got any basketball? Have you done basketball? Could we take a look at that? Like, you want the very best, right? In a short package. In that case, but because I was sending it to a sport-specific coordinating producer, I went ahead and put that segment on the back end at Mike's recommendation. So that's how it worked for me, and it's a wild deal, right? Just the way the business works and the way they can find new announcers.
Most definitely. And for me being, a 17-year-old kid, like I feel like what you do is pretty significant. However, I'm sure once I kind of grow up, I'll realize like, oh, it's kind of not like a nothing job, but it's not, I guess, as I think these high school basketball, I still think they are, but I used to think like the players at my school, we have 0 Division I players. I think they were celebrities. Like, I remember I went to school 9th grade where I didn't know any of the guys yet. And I was like, there's no way I'm in the same building as them. Like, I was in complete shock. But I want to know, doing high school sports, it is ESPN, Geico National. It's obviously a really big deal, but in terms of I guess the significance of the job for you, like, is that almost like a stepping stone process? Like, is it almost like you're kind of putting in your time doing the high school sports when you're trying to get to something else, or was that considered, like a really big deal doing that?
Listen, every game on ESPN is a major opportunity. That's how you treat it. And so, I've been doing the high school games for ESPN for 5 years now, and it's so much fun because you get to see Zion Williamson on his senior night at Spartanburg Day School in South Carolina, in front of like 500 people, and in what turned out to be a great game. Like, that's a memory that sticks with you. To answer your question, listen, every announcer who gets into this, they want to do the biggest and best games that has the biggest audience. Yes, of course, eventually you want to have the chance to do, Kansas and Texas on a big Monday, right? You want to be able to do a big game in the SEC on a fall Saturday, whatever. But you have to be able to balance ambition with gratitude. It all takes time. There are so many things that are out of your hands. And what I always lean on, like, look who did these high school basketball games before me, and look where they are now. Mike Cousins did it for 4 years. Adam Amin had the package, and look where he is now. Joe Davis with the Dodgers and Fox. Justin Kutcher, there is a really nice lineage there. The folks who have done high school basketball or football for ESPN. And I'm proud to be a part of that. And listen, it's not like that's the only thing that I do. I am very fortunate. I got to do a full season of Big 12 basketball this year for ESPN. Now, as we know, one of the very best leagues in the country. That
was definitely a solid conference this year for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what game you're doing. It's usually going to be pretty good, and you're usually going to have at least one team. And this year, 7 of the 10 teams in the league went to the dance. So you're going to have someone who is pretty good. There's a hook there. There's a reason to watch. There's a player that can draw you in. So I am very grateful for where I am. But of course, we all want to move up. It's just being honest. So all in due time. I feel like I'm better. I was better this year than I was the year before, and I was better then than I was the year before that. So we're all just trying to improve and move up.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Once you said the games on ESPN, I did realize it's on the same channel as these big games anyway. So I did realize it's basically equivalent. If you're playing, I mean, I'm sure the viewership obviously varies depending on the time of day, but it's on the same channel, so it obviously holds somewhat of the same significance. So I kind of realized that as you were talking, but yeah, man, I had a question I completely forgot. Oh yeah, I just remembered it. So, I mean, you're doing the high school sports, then you're doing Big 12 basketball, and I know you do I'm assuming a lot of other sports as well. You have done a lot of sports as well. I feel like also one of the reasons why I kind of realize maybe sports broadcasting isn't for me is because one, it's best to be diverse. You want to know about all the sports. Of course, it's good to hone in on one thing, but you hone in on that one thing and there's no opportunities in that one thing, then you're kind of, you're going to be stuck for a while. The more diverse you are, the more opportunities you can kind of find in everything. But it's just so tough knowing all these players and knowing all the information and knowing the significance of these stats and baseball stats. I don't even get whatever those.
You're not into war or Babbitt.
Yeah. I have no idea. It's just all so confusing. Just all these sports, all the players, and then you got to know the history of this stuff, and then there's the trades and the off season, and then times 5, 5 different sports. I guess how do you know all that? And do you have a genius mind, or just how do you know and balance all that? I know you guys have notes, but of course, they that could really do so much. You got to know a lot of information. So just how do you know so much?
It's honestly not even about knowing so much. This isn't a trivia competition. We're not playing Jeopardy on the air. The one of the biggest parts of our job is connecting the dots for the viewer, right? Over the course of the game, over the course of a season, what's important, what does it mean? And of course, setting up your analyst to answer some of those questions as well. Context, providing context throughout. And yes, sometimes you have a stat that can help frame the moment, a story, whatever. It's about synthesizing information. So, that is a common misconception about this. Again, we're just all brainiacs that have, 296 batting average and 486 OPS and 37.5% from 3-point range, just, off the top of our head. No, not at all. Not in the least. that's not important. And quite often you'll see that on the screen, like you were talking about earlier with the graphics that pops out from the scoreboard on the bug. Like, again, what's important about this guy? How can I bring this player to life? What's important about his or her story? That's what matters to me. What does the viewer, what does the listener find interesting? I try to use that as a guide. We use our news judgment. And so when I say synthesizing information, the other part of it is a lot of people might think we just show up to games and put the headset on and we can just do it.
That's
like,
not the case.
No. Yeah. And you know it, Isaac, certainly. Yeah. You've been around it even at your young age to know that it's very different.
Do you know who Eric Reed is with the Miami Heat?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I have a picture of his notes. It's like whatever those folders are called.
Yes, like the manila folder,
filled out. A manila folder filled out. No inch of just blank. Like it's filled out, just straight notes.
Yeah. Here's mine from Geico Nationals. Like, again, and it's got a lot of stuff, but my first point is we don't use
like half the stuff.
25% of what's on there. A lot of it is just in case. Again, you want to let the game breathe. Again, this is especially on TV. You want that game to breathe. Yes, you want to bring out what is the most important for this game, this matchup, this player. Okay, what should the viewer know? Why is this important? Why is he important? Why is he the star player? How has he improved? Whatever. That's number one. So you're not using every single note. It's not like I'm checking boxes after, I get this in about Ryan Nembhard and how going up against Cade Cunningham in practice day after day a year before helped his growth, according to Kevin Boyle, his coach. Maybe that doesn't get in. Maybe there's just not a moment for that. But in doing my research, like that stuck out to me. And I remember that because we saw him a bunch last year when Cade was on the team.
Yep.
And that's the other thing. Like, you don't just show up and do it. So much of our job is reading and preparing and combing through our interview notes when we have the chance to sit down with players, or, this year, obviously, through Zoom, sit down with coaches or players and asking them things that might lead to interesting answers, about their stories, or framing them as a player, again, to the viewer. But, now I've got to put all that on the page, and what's important, what's relevant. That's the deal. You spend so much time on that, and hopefully you're working smart, not just working hard.
Yeah.
And that comes with time. That comes with experience. But that's what's fun about it. When you find you find a story in a local newspaper, right? And then obviously, hopefully you credit that writer, which we all should do. Man, that's a great note. I hadn't heard that before. Some story, some anecdote, and you can talk with the coach about it or talk with the player about it. Tell me more about this, whatever. Like we're trying to chain it all together, to build a full picture and not just get so into the minutia of the stats. Like the average viewer at home doesn't care about that. Like, listen, yes, if he leads the Big 12 in shooting at 45% and he hits his first three, I'm probably going to bring that up. He's the best 3-point shooter in the league. But beyond that, he has this unique drill in practice, that he picked up from so-and-so or whatever. I'm just making things up. Like, you don't know. That's why you dig. That's what's fun for me, is discovering these stories and then sharing them, hopefully, with the viewer at home.
And you bring up discovering stories. I guess I want to bring up a little more like personal-ish anecdotes. So this year, even if I wasn't in my TV production class, like I don't think I could even have done this, but last year, and the year before too, I was doing like a few play-by-play broadcasts for my school's football team. One, I think I maybe saw him win one game when I did the broadcast, so that's tough in itself. But also, we're just a random high school football team. We're honestly like South Florida, where I live, is like a hotbed for high school football. I guess
Yes.
our school's like the only one that sucks. Like we have no one going Division 1, no nothing, but whatever. But it's very difficult, at least just at a normal high school, to find these because like what stories are there about these?
Right.
So the one thing I did do was I would interview the coach the day of the game or the day before, ask him like a few questions, but other than that, like there's not really much I could find. And I would search up stuff on the opposing teams, but like basketball is my favorite sport, so I could only see so much about the football players. Like when you were doing those small football games, because I feel like it's obviously a harder job as you progress in it, but in terms of the resources available, that gets easier. Like if you're doing an NBA game, there's going to be a lot more resources compared to a small random high school football game. So what were kind of your strategies, and how were you able to do those super small like high school football games when you just started?
I'd get the coach on the phone, and like you said, yes, you were able to visit with your team's coach, the day before the game, and I would try to line it up for like Tuesday, and just I'd ask him ahead of time, hey, looking for a half hour of your time because I want to go beyond the stats. I want to get to know these kids, and what I was doing, it was for radio, and so you don't have nearly as much time on radio to tell full stories or the room for conversation. That's it. TV and radio play-by-play, as we know, could not be more different. Radio, the emphasis is certainly on description. You are the eyes and the ears of the listener, and you are trying to create the theater of the mind. And so you are painting that picture, right? The formation, every element of the play. TV, very different. You have more room, a bigger canvas for storytelling. But even on radio, I was trying to, again, tell me more about, how did so-and-so, the first-year starter at quarterback, what did he show to win the job? Just little questions, simple questions like that. And you're right, there might not be newspaper coverage. And again, that is just gold, as we know, at the high school level, just anything, any kind of story. But that's why you have to go to the source and do your own work. Otherwise, you're right. You're just essentially walking in with a roster. And how do you do a game with that?
It's never understand. It goes very bad because I've done that before.
Isaac, I mean, you're 17. Like you're just getting started. Like you're learning. And again, I was very young as well doing this at 21, 22, fresh out of college, and I was still learning at the time. And again, some coaches are more accommodating than others. Some would rather do anything than get on the phone with me for a half hour. But I would try to sell them on the fact that, like, hey, I want to shine the spotlight on your program, and whoever tunes in, they're going to get a professional broadcast, and just trying to show you guys some love. Like, again, just try to keep it simple. And this is not firing fastballs at their chin and trying to dig in and find some controversy or anything like that, but just trying to get to know, like, what makes this player so good, so special. They have a kid who's going to Texas, okay, tell me about him a little bit. When did you know that he was going to become this top ranked recruit or whatever? And usually you get that story. You know what? It was his sophomore year. And, this game against so-and-so, he was matched up against a guy who is now playing at Alabama, 10th grade, didn't really know what we had, and he beat him for an 80-yard touchdown. And I just said to that I've gotten that story before. And it's like, okay, I didn't know that. And maybe the listen, again, high school football on the
yeah.
What's interesting? What's important, what's relevant about this kid's story. And so that's kind of how I tried to treat it, and just try to go through the roster. I'm not going through every single player, but again, hitting the highlights, like on the depth chart, try to get at least a note on each starter, people who are major contributors on the team. Tell me more about him. How did he make the jump from, a junior backup to now a captain as a senior and your leading tackler, whatever.
Yeah.
Because I firmly believe this, Isaac. Every player has a story in some way. You just got to find it. And yeah, you're right. It takes cooperation. Like the coach has to be willing to share that, but hopefully you approach it the right way, can gain their trust. And I'm thankful. I never really had a problem with any coaches at, very early on, because I was upfront what I was trying to do. And for the most part, they were very gracious with their time.
Yeah. And my final question, really appreciate you for your time. Of course, I could be going on for hours, but again, you don't want to just overload an interview. So I just want to ask a final good closing question, something that I hope that this could be a resource to either to me or to other kids out there. Like, we obviously touched on a lot of things that could be helpful, such as, like the whole demo reel kind of concepts. Cause I know some people do, but I didn't know like too much about it specifically. So I guess just overall, like, what would be your advice to young kids and just young people that are trying to get to I guess to where you are today?
Embrace and capitalize on every opportunity, every single one, even if that means you make your own opportunity. And what I mean by that, I can't imagine what it would have been like. Say you're graduating from college last year, right as the pandemic begins, and like you don't have games. You don't have games to create that reel. So you got to figure out a way. And if that means doing it, on your phone and dubbing the audio, syncing it with video, whatever it is, you kind of have to DIY it a little bit. It just, sometimes you do have to do it on your own. Again, whether that's doing a game off TV, right, off your laptop, just for experience, just to get better, whether it's a radio call, a TV call, however you fashion it, there can't be an excuse. Well, I didn't get my chance. No.
Yeah.
Did you exhaust every opportunity? You want to be a talk show host? Did you start your own podcast? And who cares if it's ever downloaded? Who cares if anybody listens? You're doing it. You are carrying a segment, a show for 15 minutes, for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes on your own, with a focused topic, about the Dallas Cowboys and the draft that starts tonight, or the Mavericks with Luka and their playoff hopes, and the perceived Luka Kristaps Porzingis drama, whatever it is. If you're going to be a talk show host, if you're doing play-by-play, again, just doing a baseball game that's on TV by yourself, you hit mute on that audio and you do the game into the voice memos app on your iPhone or whatever. Like, there are ways around it, even if you can't do it yourself. And now that thankfully we have sports, and in a safe manner, if that means, my school doesn't have a radio station. Well, again, you have your iPhone. Why don't you go into the stands and do it yourself? Like that was, Isaac, literally, this was the assignment for my sports broadcasting class at North Texas, taught by the legendary Bill Mercer. It was a very simple assignment. The homework every week in the fall, it was go call a football game into your phone and, send him the link afterward. And he listens and he grades it. And in the spring, basketball and baseball, you do a game in the stands, right? Don't go to the booth, because the idea was, and try to, separate yourself from the crowd, whoever happens to be there, find a nice spot at the top of the bleachers, whatever. If you can do the game in the stands with those little distractions around you, you can certainly do it when you're in a cushy booth, right, down the road. So just embrace every opportunity and always say yes. Whether that's, what you did for ESPN at Geico Nationals.
Yeah, well, that was a really big deal for me. I'd be dumb if I was.
Yeah.
I worked for that opportunity, so that was offered to me. So
yes,
I'd be dumb if I said like, "Can I go?" And then I'm like, "Actually, never mind." So
yeah, you have to. There has to be an element of hustle again, without being a pest, and that's a fine line, as we know. But you were persistent. You showed something, and again, at that age, just to be around it, just to get exposed to it, you were handing out stats, running cable, whatever you were doing. At your age, that's invaluable just to be around it. And it's not even exactly what you're doing, it's who you are connecting with. And it's not me, it's people that are a lot more important than me, because who knows, they might hire you again to be a runner for this other event in South Florida, a few weeks down the road, or this or that, and you're working your way up. And you know what, I'm actually really interested in this, or being in the truck, or what, I really want to be on the air. And what do you think about that? What do you suggest I would do? Well, hey, I got a friend of mine who that's networking. And again, being appreciative, being humble, thanking them along the way. That's how you make it all work. It's yes, it's a tough business, but it's rewarding in the end.
Yeah. Well, really, really appreciate it for your time. I told you in the beginning, but it means a lot, having you come on everything, share your advice. It was almost like, at that broadcast camp I would go to, like I just held a mini seminar, I guess you could say. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I guess that's basically all I got to say. I enjoyed your time again, but hopefully we'll talk soon. Keep in touch. And so for ESPN and Westwood One play-by-play broadcaster, Mr. Ted Emrich, I'm Isaac Fleischer, and this has been another IU Self-Learn interview. Peace out, guys.